Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about The Babadook. And this movie is directed by Jennifer Kent, and it came out in 2014. And I've seen this movie once before, and it was not in theaters, but roughly sometime after the movie came out, like in 2015 or maybe a year later. I don't remember exactly when I first saw it, but it was at least 8 years ago. And I was excited to revisit the movie because, like 8 years after seeing the movie, enough time has passed to revisit the film, and I really enjoyed it. And although I still have some issues with the movie, at the very least, I can say there were tiny things that I got out of it this time watching it, as opposed to my first viewing. And I'll get into the details a bit later as to what those things are. And what I am going to say first is that I like the characters in this movie a lot. They're all very likable characters, especially the two main leads. They're very well established, and instead of a story where, like, oh, everything's going very well for our main characters and they're doing well, and all of a sudden this horror entity or whatever thing shows up, and all of a sudden it turns their life from good to bad over the course of the film. Instead, it's a little bit different, and I'm pretty sure this isn't the first movie to do this. I'm sure there have been other movies that have done this beforehand. I just can't think of them, or maybe I have seen them or I forgot. But anywho, what I'm trying to say is it's a situation where things are going not too great for our main character, and her son is getting kicked out of school because he has problems, and he's very, very difficult to deal with, and she's also struggling to pay her bills, and they bring that up a couple times, and Sam, the kid, is not getting along with other kids, and it can get violent at times. Sometimes he uses firecrackers, and very difficult to deal with, and not having a job that pays super well, and they're also dealing with a loss that happened 6 years ago in this movie's timeline, and yeah, a lot of bad things happening, and it's a situation where it goes from bad to worse, or maybe already worse, and it just takes it to the next step somehow. And the performances in this movie are really good. The child actor is good for the most part. The only parts where I don't really buy him is when he's supposed to be screaming or yelling or giving out a lot. When the script is asking a lot from him, sometimes he doesn't always deliver for me. But when he's not required to do that, he's good, which is most of the movie. Most of the movie, he's good. And Elsie Davis, if I pronounced that correctly, she did a really great job in this movie, and she's easily the best part of the movie, and she's the main character. So that's always a plus when the best performance in the movie is the main character. You get to spend the most time with the best performance in the movie. And the movie is very stressful, and you really do feel it. Not just from the plot, but also from the music and the tone, especially. The music is used very appropriately, and the tone of the movie I also really love, and I'm always with it, and it never really betrays what you're being shown and what you're supposed to be feeling. It goes into a completely opposite direction, just right there. We need a comedic moment or scene, and just to completely drain the tension from the scene. Instead, we just keep building and building and building. And another thing that I really appreciated about this movie, and this was something that I picked up on from this viewing, and my first viewing, I just watched it on TV with my TV speakers, no surround sound or anything. And this time I was able to listen to it. I was watching on Netflix on my computer, and I had headphones on, and this is something that you'll probably be able to pick up on if you watch it with headphones, or at least have a good sound setup, is that when they're reading the book Mr. Babadook, this is something that I noticed is that when they're reading it, they add in like little bug sound effects or crickets. I don't know exactly what they used, but that's supposed to imply like something creepy is being shown here. And not just the visuals that are creepy, but also it's supposed to imply like something's not right here. And I like how that's used. And when they close the book, that sound stops. And when they open the book back up again, then we get that sound effect again. And I like that it's used consistently and used how music is like reflected in how characters are behaving or like what's being shown visually. Like they put like when they're done reading like Mr. Babadook and our main character puts the book away, like kind of hides it. All music and sound effects just stop right there. And it's just sounds that are like in the film's environment. Like when it comes to like footsteps or like audio, like I think you know what I'm talking about. Like I'm kind of losing the words right now, but I just love how things like that are just like given attention to, and I really appreciate that. And all in all, this movie just has like a great usage of sound. And I've already described why, but that's something that's consistent throughout the entire film, in my opinion. And I know I've been pretty positive on this movie so far. I do have issues with the movie. And nothing super big that like ruins the movie, but I feel as though there are like little things sprinkled throughout to the film that if it was just improved just a little bit, I think that the movie would have been just like a tad bit better for each of these. And there were some weird endings to certain scenes. Like I felt some of the editing was a bit abrupt. Like we were missing like a minute worth of a scene somewhere, maybe less, but it just felt a little bit abrupt when a scene started or ended at a couple points. There was also a point where a character got pushed, and in my opinion, it wasn't very convincing, and that was the only point of the movie where I was kind of laughing at the movie. And if you've seen the movie, then you know what I'm talking about. There was just a point where the mom character told Sam to go play with the girls, but in my head, I'm just thinking, that's a very bad idea. Because you know he doesn't get along with other kids. Like, why would you send him to, like, play with other kids when two things are going on? A, he doesn't get along very well. And B, he's also dealing with something. Something is on his mind. And, like, why would you do that? You're kind of just setting things up for disaster. And I have heard some criticisms that the Babadook is just a guy in a hat. I don't even mind that necessarily. It's just that in certain parts of the movie towards the end, all I can think is that, oh, that's just an animatronic. And I can very clearly see how it's being used. And yeah, that was a bit distracting for me. Luckily, it's shown like very few times when it's being used as an animatronic, but when it does show it as like, I almost feel like you could have removed that shot and it would have been a bit more effective. But one thing that I will say about this movie, positively speaking, is that there's no loud, obnoxious jump scares, and all the scares in the movie are coming from the film's universe and not independently from the film's universe. And it feels like a natural part of the environment, like you're actually there and you can get inside the characters' heads and what they're thinking. Love all that. But there's one thing about the Babadook that I kind of hate is that they use some sound effects for the character that just sound very familiar and I just heard in other things. And I feel like if they had removed those sound effects that they gave to the character, I feel as though it would have been a lot more effective for me. But as far as issues go, like, that's it. And that's pretty much all I have to say about this movie. I thought it was a great experience, a movie that actually creeped me out, and especially, like, reading Mr. Babadook. Like, those scenes I thought were excellent. And as far as horror goes, those were the best scenes in the movie for me. Not to say that I wasn't scared at any other point in the movie, but I would say those are my favorite scenes in the movie, and they're pretty iconic and well known. And this is also a movie that has a pretty small budget, like $2 million. And I think they do a pretty good job with that money. And it looks better than a $2 million movie. So definitely check this movie out. It's on Netflix right now, so yep, should be pretty easy for you to access, I would imagine. And with all that being said, I'm going to give The Babadook an 8 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos as always. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below you thought of The Babadook, and my social media links, they will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for The Holdovers. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.